Alright, you caught me. The line is open and the tea is hot. I've carried silence heavier than some people's secrets, and this is the season where I finally put it down and tell you why I stopped keeping my mouth shut. Welcome to the introduction. You've reached the Secret Society's Unfiltered AF hotline.
At the tone, please record your message.
If you are new here, welcome to the Secret Society. If you are returning, welcome back to the Sacred Circle. I'm your host, Sycrett Freisen, and this is Unfiltered AF. Today, we're having a tea party, so pinkies up, dearie, it's story time. In our last episode, we went behind the scenes and I told you what the Secret Society is all about. Today, I'm giving you the story behind the voice. We're not just pulling back the curtain, we are taking a step into the dressing room. So let's get started. A few years ago, and by a few, I mean memorably, my whole life, I've had no choice but to grow up fast. I'm sure some of you can relate to that. In my young years, I was picked on because of my albinism. And really, that was the beginning of my self-awareness because at that age, kids are not really thinking about how they look, let alone if they're different. And I will save that topic and those details for another episode because I do want to dive into both albinism and self-awareness. But anyways, while other kids were wrapped up in playground games and carefree days, life forced me to face things much more difficult. My father passed away when I was 8, and I'm still a little bit traumatized by the fact that nobody told me about his passing until the morning of his funeral. Perhaps you've faced a moment like that too, where you felt like the rug was pulled from beneath you without any warning. That loss was just the beginning of a season that felt really unsteady. Between the ages of 7 and 13, my mom and I moved more times than I can count. And I don't mean just houses, but entire states, which made it almost impossible for me to put down real roots. This also created a heavy sense of isolation for me. In Texas, I finally thought I found steady ground. We were there long enough that I was making friends, planting seeds, and even planning for the future. For the first time in a long time, life felt almost normal. But at 16, my world was turned upside down. My mom passed away suddenly, and this time, it wasn't just the rug. Instead, it felt like the entire ground fell from beneath me. After that, I was uprooted again and moved back to Utah. The girl who was once on track to graduate early was suddenly just trying to survive, barely scraping my way across the finish line. At 17, I was working 18-hour days, making paychecks that barely covered a meal, sleeping on couches and floors, just trying to survive. Things were tough. My mental health was non-existent, and that wasn't even the half of it. Maybe you've had that season of survival mode too, where you're running on fumes, but life won't give you the option to stop. I remember those days like they were yesterday. The spare bathroom had become my hiding place because honestly, I'd never liked to cry, let alone be seen crying. I had carried all of that weight silently and didn't realize that I had gone into autopilot, just going through the mundane tasks of life like I wasn't completely shattered on the inside. Resilience was my mask, even as my heart was breaking. Talking about it now brings back that gut-wrenching feeling. Stressed and overwhelmed is an understatement for how I was feeling at the time. I was scared. I felt alone, and I couldn't call my parents because the realization finally hit me that they were dead. One day, while taking a shower, I just snapped. I'd broken down so badly that I just laid there. There I was, sobbing, extremely vulnerable, but most of all, exhausted. And in that moment, I realized that even with all of the people I could call, I'd spent so long masking my feelings that I didn't feel safe enough sharing what I was going through mentally. I found that this is more common than we think. According to psychology, people who pull away the moment they feel sad, unwanted, or ignored are often experiencing a coping mechanism called emotional withdrawal. And I withdrew, not because I didn't care, but because silence felt safer than being misunderstood. Maybe you've been there too, or love someone who has. Either way, it's a reminder that silence doesn't always mean apathy. Sometimes it's just the scar tissue of surviving. Believe it or not, I've never had a therapist through any of this. My only counselor was God, and I too had moments where I questioned him. I'd ask, why this and why that, and most importantly, why me? There were nights that I was begging him for a break, thinking this cannot be a normal life. But I remember that my mama used to always tell me, God won't give you anything you can't handle. And even when I didn't want to believe it, those words carried me. Really, those words became the thread that stitched me back together. I chose not to go to college because I couldn't even imagine planning that life without the one person who was the most excited for me to go. But that doesn't mean I stopped learning. My wisdom has always come from God, my angels, my ancestors, my gut and intuition, and the lessons that life has pressed into me. And that is the kind of knowing that I'm bringing into this podcast. Lived, unfiltered, and experienced. I've carried so much for so long, quietly, privately, and alone. But I'm still here. And through it all, I've found a way to get back up again. And this podcast is my way of turning all of that silence into something that might help someone else feel less alone too. Let today's story time be a reminder that everyone's path is different. What may seem like a pebble to you could very well be a boulder in someone else's eyes. I've learned that when we share our stories, they don't lose power. They grow, they heal, they connect, and they remind someone else that they are not alone. And that is exactly what we're going to do here together. So, what can you expect when you pull up a chair to this sacred circle? Every other Monday, we'll talk about what I like to call the messy, magical middle. The part of transformation that doesn't always make it to social media. You'll get the raw, unfiltered conversations, personal stories, and spiritual insights all designed to help you slow down, tune in, and rise up. You'll hear from me solo most of the time, but remember, this circle is for all of us. Every now and then, I will share someone else's story too. The kind of stories that heal, connect, and remind us that we're not alone. We'll laugh, cry, maybe even drag ourselves a little, but we'll also leave with something that we can carry into real life. This isn't just my story. This is our space. So if you're ready to heal out loud and embrace the sacred chaos that we call life, welcome to the circle. Before we go, I want to leave you with a question. What's something you have carried silently that you're ready to put down? Think about it. Journal it. Share it with me here and on socials because in this circle, we don't heal in silence. We heal out loud. Subscribe, follow, and share this with someone like you who's ready to step into their own power. The line is always open. I want to thank you for listening and allowing me the room and time to share a little bit of my life. Until we meet again, my sacred siren and sires, be you, be unshakable, and be unfiltered AF.